Hey everybody, it's Jason Blaha here, and today I want to chat with you guys just a little bit about one of the things that we can do with our diet that can be extremely beneficial, and that is to build most of your calories around things like whole grains and root vegetables. So what do I mean by this? And again, this is assuming you don't have personal intolerances or allergies or things like that. So I want to be clear when I say that. But whole grains, meaning brown rice, oats, barley, whole wheat. And again, I understand some people do have some wheat issues, and if you do, that's okay. Don't eat it. Problem solved. All right, see how simple that is? All right, that almost gets them up the video. No, I'm kidding. Also, root vegetables, perfect example. Sweet potatoes, white potatoes, both of those count. And in fact, when we comprise our diets of most of these things, all the research around the world shows our health tends to improve. Right? Our health tends to improve. And any negative concerns that people have about this, again, they're like, oh, there's certain anti-nutrients and other things. And they forget that these quote-unquote anti-nutrients are actually oftentimes extremely beneficial to our health. But as far as any of them that you're concerned with, we'll quit eating the food raw. Okay? So don't eat raw brown rice. Right? Cook it first in hot water. Right? Don't just eat it dry out of the bag. Don't eat your potatoes raw. You should cook them. This literally resolves every possible health concern that anyone has. Okay, other than, of course, that it's carbohydrate. But the thing to think about, we can argue all day long about fructose metabolism and how much fructose in different forms we can convert into glucose. But generally speaking, glucose is the primary fuel source of humans. And unless you have a specific medical issue that may or may not be curable, with problems with glucose metabolism, and it's usually insulin related, pancreas related, again, and unless you're born with it, it is largely curable. Okay, so keep that in mind when we start talking things like type 2 diabetes. That's fixable with lifestyle. And what I would suggest is that if you had just eaten in the way that I described of using these as your primary calories, it would be almost impossible to develop type 2 diabetes. So we need to let that sink in for a moment. If we got most of our calories every day from whole grains and root vegetables, we wouldn't develop type 2 diabetes. Because neither of those foods contributes in any way to insulin resistance, and it's actually really hard to get fat eating them, unless you're adding a bunch of fat to your diet. So you can't get type 2 diabetes from them. So again, the irony of the people who then have these issues, who are concerned with these foods, but it's like if you had just eaten them, you wouldn't have your disease, right? So this is nonsense. It's a nonsense argument. Humans thrive on glucose. The one exception, of course, would be type 1 diabetics, but that doesn't mean that their cells are different, and that's the thing that people forget with that too. So when we're talking about glucose-based carbs like that, because you're born with a medical condition that makes it harder for you to process it because you're not producing insulin, doesn't mean that your cells are not the same as other humans. They still thrive on glucose. They still want glucose. You just are not producing the hormone that properly transports our primary fuel source. This is why type 1 diabetes is so deadly, right? Because you're missing the ability to transport our preferred and primary fuel source, and that's glucose. So when you look at these specific foods, they're primarily glucose as a calorie source. Yes, they oftentimes have some trace healthy fats. They oftentimes have a decent amount of protein, some other fiber, but they're glucose-based. Humans thrive on glucose. It is our natural fuel source. It is our preferred fuel source. It is our healthiest fuel source. And we also do not store it as body fat. Humans do not convert glucose to body fat at any appreciable rate. It's so microscopic that it's not something to be concerned with. Glucose also does not contribute to fatty liver. Okay, things like that. It's not going to create these problems for you. The other thing to think about with these foods, they generally do have enough fiber that they also slow it down. So they tend to give you a very stable supply of glucose, energy, everything else. They also always have enough fiber to help with gut flora, to again give us those short chain fatty acids we want. right? That help us burn fat a little bit better, that help feed our gut flora, give us a healthier gut biome, right? These are all beneficial things, on top of the fact that they're loaded with vitamins and minerals. These foods tend to be high in certain minerals like potassium and magnesium, things that we are some of our most frequent dietary deficiencies in the West. You'll hear people say that all the time. Oh, we have a magnesium deficiency, so we need to supplement with it. But these foods are high in magnesium. This eliminates this. Same thing with potassium. Sodium to potassium ratios are the biggest dietary factor in blood pressure, other than, again, things that affect sensitivities, such as anything that causes insulin resistance and other stuff, causes accruing body fat. So again, all these benefits there are enormous. And again, they also tend to have a wide variety of vitamins in them. Right? Almost all of the fat in these is polyunsaturated fats, which, again, plant-based polyunsaturated fats, the research is overwhelming, showing the health benefits. Right? Not only are they required for basic life functions, all of our essential fats are polyunsaturated. The specific types of fats found in these foods tend to improve insulin sensitivity. They tend to improve lipid ratios. They tend to increase HDL, our good cholesterol. They tend to decrease LDL, our bad cholesterol. They don't contribute to elevated triglycerides. Again, these are foods that, when you start really looking at what they do in the human body, are absolutely amazing. Right? These should be a big chunk of our staple calories. I'm not saying you have to use these specific foods, but they work very well. And there's some of these things that ridiculous fad diet people have tried to demonize, right? And in doing so, that is to people's detriment. And I would suggest to you that any fitness guru or diet guru who tells you that whole grains or root vegetables are not absurdly healthy is spreading misinformation. You need to run from them. And when I say that, I don't mean that they're saying, well, that they're okay. No. If they're saying they're okay, you still need to run. If they're not telling you, look, these are fantastic sources of nutrition and calories, anything short of that statement is misinformation. And I would suggest that you run from this person. Don't follow their work. They are trying to harm you, either because they either deliberately are trying to harm you and to just sell you garbage, or they are mentally insane, right? In which case, again, they're going to harm you by spreading their own mental illness and insanity to you. So run from those people. All right, guys, but that's really all I have to say on that today. I hope it's been informative, and I'll talk to you guys next time.